Traders, how are you? Marcello, founder of the Day Trading Academy, co-founder of Speed Up. Today we're going to be doing the recap of what happened in the markets last week. Overall, we had a great market, great information, I should say. A lot of things going on, especially with China and Russia. Don't forget that you guys can come if you guys want to learn how to trade or you don't want to lose your own capital. You guys can come to Speed Up Trader where you can apply to trade a funded account rather than lose your own money. You can come take a test. Trade with some of our funded accounts. That'll be great for you as well. Also, don't forget to subscribe. If you guys have any questions, don't forget to leave the questions with hashtag AskMarcello. I'm going to start doing those videos again now that I got how you like the new spot. I think I found the perfect spot now with the video recording during the quarantine. And don't forget to leave your like here on YouTube or maybe Instagram if you guys are watching. The podcast is available. If you guys want to listen to the podcast, look it up as Day Trading Academy on YouTube, or on iTunes or even Spotify. It's you guys can listen to that as well. Monday, the markets were higher. We had concerns about the COVID-19 cases, keeping a lot of investors wary in regards to what's going on with the economy. They're obviously excited about the potential stimulus that we are going to find, even though that's going to be a very, very bad thing. NASDAQ on Monday reached its 7th record high. And Tuesday, markets were mixed. Investors moved into more economically sensitive cyclical stocks. Say that 5 times fast. And they're betting on a new round of stimulus since there's a lot of negotiations between the Republicans and also the Democrats in the Congress in regards to that. Wednesday started mixed, but it ended higher as the U.S. ordered the shutdown of a Chinese consulate in Houston. I'll let you know about the details of that. Escalating tensions between the world's 2 largest economies. Stimulus negotiations as well. Thursday, the market ended lower. Signs that the new coronavirus relief bill is at hand lifted sentiment. And we also had a situation where we had mixed earnings from a lot of the big companies and also possible second wave of the coronavirus. Obviously, that's a big thing that's on investors' minds. Friday, we ended lower, weaker corporate earnings, surging new coronavirus cases, and geopolitical uncertainties, obviously between the U.S. and China. Overall, for the week, Dow was down 0.76%. For the year, it's still down 7.25%. S&P 500 is down 0.28% for the week. For the year, it's still down 0.47%. And then the NASDAQ for the week is down 1.35%, even though it's up 15.50% for the year. European markets, the FTSE, the London FTSE went down more than others, 2.71%. The biggest winner was Russia at 3.18% positive. Latin American exchanges. And one of the things that I want to get some of your feedback as well. So if you're listening on Instagram or YouTube, let me know if you guys want to hear about these different markets and which went up, like Latin America or Africa or the Far East. I know we have some traders out there in the Philippines and other markets as well. So let me know if you guys want to hear that, or if, for example, Latin American markets for you guys doesn't matter, right? Just let me know in the comments there. So in the Latin American markets, the biggest winner was the Merval in Argentina, 6.88% positive. The biggest loser was Canada at just over 1%. Africa and the Middle East, most of the losers were below 1%, while Egypt was up 4.17%, the biggest winner in that region. Asia, we had the HSCEIs, the biggest loser in Hong Kong at 1.51%, while the Sensex in India went up 2.99%. For all my traders in the Philippines, that market went down 1.42%. Bitcoin and other cryptocurrency news. I think this is huge news for Bitcoin, and there's actually something that's going on right now that I think really it really kind of shows the dynamic of what's going to happen with Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies in the future. I'm going to explain that in just a moment. There was a U.S. federal court that ruled that Bitcoin defined as money under the law in Washington, D.C. The judgment came about as the court is declining to dismiss criminal charges against the man operating underground Bitcoin trading platform, which is accused of laundering money. So Why is that a big deal? Well, Bitcoin now is defined legally as money. We have a lot of, let's say, fear and uncertainty, with what is going on right now with the economy and the government and, China and the US. And you can see we've had a huge surge in silver and gold. I don't know if you guys are following me for a while, but I talked a lot about silver and gold. I talked about the $40,000 loss that I was holding on to in silver. Now the market has spiked. I can tell you one thing. It's definitely not a loss anymore. So I actually closed out all my positions, which is great. So you would think that in this environment, when we have gold and silver skyrocketing because of the uncertainty of what's going on in the world, that Bitcoin would be going up too, but that's actually not. Even 9 weeks after the halving, which is the obviously to reduce the new number of Bitcoins, the issues are mined, depending on how you define it. Bitcoin should really be going up, because if Bitcoin was supposedly supposed to be the new world money where you could put your money because it's secure, why isn't it going up? See, that's, you guys see what I'm talking about? So just to give you a quick review of my thoughts about Bitcoin, obviously we have the cryptocurrencies and then we have the blockchain technology. And these are two things that are merged together. When somebody talks about Bitcoin or crypto, they talk about these things together, but in reality, they're two separate systems. Right? We have blockchain, which is the technology that a lot of these digital currencies use. A lot of the technology is called distributed ledger technology as well. And you have obviously the cryptos, Bitcoin, Ethereum, all that actually sits on top of the blockchain technology. So I think that blockchain is the future. That's going to revolutionize everything. I wouldn't be surprised when we have the new world currency, which is coming, that it literally works on blockchain, right? So they can track everything that we do. But I don't think Bitcoin or cryptos are going to be what people say they are. It can go up, it could go down. Obviously, they're saying that it's going to reach 50 bajillion thousand in 5 years. So we did have Bitcoin go from 3,000 to 9,000, 10,000, but obviously also this year we had silver go from $12, $13 to now $23, and it's probably going to be in the high teens by the end of the year. Remember, I told you that. If you guys want to see the results of the trades that I placed, I could definitely do that video for you following up about that $40,000 loss that I was holding on to that obviously isn't loss anymore. I closed all those with a good profit, which is great. Financial and banking news, the U.S. national debt rocketed up to $25 trillion as the government continues to issue more stimulus to be able to try to recover the economy, instead of pushing the Fed to lower the deficit when the economy was strong. Generally, the economic principles is, well, when the economy is great and it's expanding, the government should pull back its spending, right? We should reduce the debt. So when things aren't great and the markets go down, then obviously the government can do the stimulus and increase the debt to be able to spur the growth in the economy. Well, under Trump, that did not happen. We had a situation where the debt actually skyrocketed for a variety of reasons. And now the U.S. is entering the current crisis with the national debt rocketing higher while the government is trying to scramble to help the economy. So I always try to do these videos with no political influence or things attached. I think most of us are tired of all this political stuff. Am I right? Leave a like if you like that one, right? The YouTube videos, they love it when you hit the like. I do these videos for free for you. Smash that like button. You better like it. You done? Okay. So, it doesn't matter whether it's Trump or Obama, whoever you love or hate. At the end of the day, I think both sides are, they're fighting to drive the car that's going to lead us off the cliff. And this debt situation is going to be a big part of that. The euro trading at an 18-month high after the EU Recovery Fund, got a deal, 858 billion for the stimulus in Europe. U.S. investment bank Goldman Sachs, which is, I would say, the most important financial institution in the U.S. All of the executives, the big wigs in Goldman Sachs, they go from Goldman Sachs to the central bank, then back to Goldman Sachs. It's like a revolving door. They settled the scandal that they had with Malaysia for $3.9 billion. They're going to pay $2.5 billion in cash, and then the rest return $1.4 billion in the proceeds from the scandal that they had, where it's a multi-billion-dollar scandal where they're going to be held in criminal charges in Malaysia. So now that's resolved for them. In commodities, oil climbed last week to the highest prices in over 4 months. U.S. crude went up 1.84% to $41.34. It's still down almost 32.50% for the year. International Brent went up 0.46%. $43.34, but it's still down $34.24 in 2020. What helped that is the biggest weekly decline in U.S. crude supply so far in 2020, and OPEC, the oil mafia, agreed to cut production by 2 million barrels of oil per day. Mexico is asking top banks to submit quotes for a giant oil hedging program. I don't know if you guys remember when OPEC was doing let's say, negotiating the cut. Mexico was standing offish. They said that they weren't going to cut. The reason why is because they have a hedging program. If you guys don't know what a hedging program is, just kind of an overall idea of it, $1 billion. Let's say the government of Mexico is relying on $60 or $70 oil. Let's say 60. Well, the government revenues and expenses in order to balance their books, because obviously governments always never spend enough, right? They're going to put, okay, well, we're always going to receive $60 oil. Well, if something happens like what happened this year where the price goes down to 20 or 30, they're literally missing half of their budget. See what I mean? So what they do, and a lot of other companies, Southwest was big for this a few years ago. Mexico has a $1 billion hedging program where if they lose the $60 oil that they're expecting to get and it goes down to 30, they can have options, puts or orders in the futures market that will make them the difference to be able to protect themselves against the price of oil. So if they don't, they actually specifically do it in options. If they don't have to use that, they cancel the options and then pay a small fee to be able to have them. So they're going into a lot of the U.S. banks to be able to see who wants to, let's say, take those orders, because obviously there's quite a bit in administration fees that a lot of these U.S. banks can make off of that. A big piece of news, I think, that indicates the slow fall of the American empire is the fact that the most valuable company in India, called India's Reliance Industries, they're in a lot of businesses like telecoms and oil refineries. If I'm not mistaken, the fourth richest person in Asia owns it in India. Fourth richest person in Asia, the richest in India, has overcome this company now, has overcome as the most valuable company. It took over ExxonMobil. So just to kind of put this in a big picture for you, ExxonMobil before was the most valuable energy company in the world. Aramco, which is the state-owned, the royal family essentially of Saudi Arabia, sold about 10% or so of that company. They became the most valuable public company in the world. I don't really count them because essentially it's just a state-owned oil company, right? So ExxonMobil, America, used to be the most valuable energy company in the world. Well, Reliance Industries now has overtaken ExxonMobil as the most viable company in the world that deals with energy. Obviously, they're not primarily energy. They have refineries and other markets as well. But I think, as the United States is infighting for a variety of reasons, Democrats versus Republicans, the protests, social justice, all this stuff, we're literally allowing the rest of the world to just kind of pass us by. And really, if it wasn't for Aramco, India now would have the most valuable energy, or the most valuable company that's involved in energy in the world. And I think this is big news because we're starting to see small signs here and there that the American empire is slowly coming to a halt. I hope you guys are preparing, because I can do more videos about these things, why I think this is going to happen most likely in the second term of Trump or the next president, the next 4, 5, 6 years, anywhere between, I want to say 2024 to 2026, right in there, maybe as early 2023. And, the financial system, the U.S. reserve dollar status, all of that stuff is kind of leading to the same moment. And I hope you guys have a job or something that you can rely on to be able to make money or survive during this time. Because obviously, I think the coronavirus has shown that, if you have a business, if you have a restaurant or a doctor's office or anything like that, this is a fluke that nobody could have expected. I did talk about the financial crisis that was coming in 2020. I don't think the coronavirus was just what popped the balloon, so to speak. Trading is something that you guys can definitely do no matter where you're at. And even if things are bad, notice that stock markets are still open. You can still potentially make money. So think about that. Other than that, gold prices on Tuesday jumped to their highest level since September 2011 to over $1,840 an ounce. Silver hit more than a 4-year peak, surpassing $21 an ounce on Tuesday. It hit 5.6% overnight. Obviously, this has to do with the fear, the uncertainty of what's going on in the world. Investors are looking for safe havens, and also the lack of supply right? Because of the coronavirus, a lot of the mines, a lot of the processing plants are actually closed. Other than that, boom in metals take silver's to recent gains to 20%, and gold is at a 9-year high. Precious metals for the week, gold is up 5.02% to 1,902. The high for gold was 1,921 in 2011. Silver for the week is up 17.39% to 2,281. It did cross $23. Silver hit $23.03, which is a 7-year high, up 18% week over week. The high of silver that a lot of people talk about was in 2011 at $48.84. What they don't talk about, though, is the high that it reached $49.45 in 1980. And a lot of people don't know, $49.45 in 1980s dollars is actually roughly $155 today. This is why I'm primarily focused on silver, because I think they're going to have a big run up like you're starting to see, and we're probably going to get to the high teens sometime this year. We'll pull back and then we'll continue to go higher. In political news, Croatia's parliament approved new government led by a conservative party that won the parliamentary election earlier this month. Tunisia's government has collapsed only after 5 months after it was formed, plunging the North African nation into a political and democratic crisis. Myanmar's leader, and I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing this correctly, Aung San Suu Kyi, is going to be a candidate in November's general election. She was barred from running due to a law in the constitution previously that was done by the previous military government. In economic news, U.S. initial jobless claims rose in a week ending July 18th for the first time since late March. New applications rose by 109,000 to 1.42 million seasonally adjusted. The prediction was for 1.41 million. So, we had the jobless claims go down, and now all of a sudden we see an uptick. Obviously, we have the situation as well with the second wave of the coronavirus and the shutdowns as well. Additionally, almost 975,000 people sought for benefits through the temporary federal relief program. And that obviously, if they don't get a stimulus out, a lot of these programs are going to end soon. And obviously, the Trump administration and the government wants to be able to help a lot of people out there who are hurting. U.S. businesses activity increased to a 6-month high in July, but companies now reporting a drop in new orders, obviously due to the coronavirus resurgence. We have a situation that the stimulus, as I mentioned, is starting to expire. So now a lot of companies don't have the cash reserves anymore. And if the federal government aid actually stops and the pandemic continues, I'm reading reports that, 77,000 businesses in New York are going to go bankrupt. We're in for a tough situation. Conservative conference in Brazil. Consumer confidence, in Brazil rose for the third consecutive month in July. That's extending a V-shaped recovery. Everybody's talking about a V-shaped. I think it might be more like a W, where we have, obviously the big push up, and then we have another downturn, and then finally the recovery. In corporate news, Tesla, profitable now, is its fourth consecutive profitable month, which is now eligible to join the S&P 500 index. It's going to turbocharge the index of America's top companies. The S&P 500 is actually the market that we teach on DTA. It's great for beginners and professionals alike. They reported $104 million profit in the last quarter, even though their Fremont manufacturing plant in California was shut for half of that period. Their stocks for this year has risen 280%. Multiple states are investigating Apple for potentially deceiving customers. Reported by the Tech Transparency Project, a multiple state investigation. Boeing is likely to delay the production and could come the announcement of the delay to corruption. They could delay the production of their 77X jet by several months or up to a year, as the coronavirus and the COVID situation puts a drop in demand for the industry's largest jetliners. In trade news, Portugal's government launched a plan to boost its export sector to alleviate the impact of the coronavirus. They want to increase exports by 53% of GDP. I should say 53% of the GDP by 2030 and 44% by 2019. And in technology, China has successfully launched an unmanned probe to Mars. It's the first independent mission to another planet. Their ambition to join a lot of the small club of other nations that are exploring space. The probe is going to land on the northern hemisphere in an area called Utopia Planitia. And it plans to reach to Mars in February. So they just launched it. We're in July, and it's going to reach there in February. And it's going to deploy a rover to explore the planet of Mars over the next 90 days once it arrives. And NBA is teaming up with Microsoft to be able to provide a virtual environment for the restart that they're doing on July 30th. Finally, I'm a basketball fan. And they're going to plan to put actually virtual audience in the stands as you're watching the games to be able to seem more realistic while you're watching the games. In investment news, existing U.S. home sales surged 20.7% since last month. It's a rebound from a 3-month slump, but a shortage of properties for sale may well hinder larger gains in the summer. The month of May had sales at their lowest level in more than 9.5 years, and sales from the U.S. single-family homes races to a 13-year high as well in the month of June, as the housing market outperforms the broader economy. So it could be a good indication that the economy may recover a little bit sooner than we're thinking. Warren Buffett bought up to 34 million shares in Bank of America in the last few days. The average buying price is $24. He now owns 11% of all Bank of America shares instead of the previous 7.4%. He, in my opinion, is making a really bad decision, spending $860 million after they plunged 32% since the beginning of 2020. And he's been criticized quite a bit, including by myself, due to the fact that he has $137 billion in cash just sitting in a bank account in Q1. And in my opinion, as I mentioned to you guys before, if you guys follow me, I do these every week. Last year I mentioned that I don't think he's going to be making good decisions, and he hasn't been. Look at the huge loss that he's been making in the airlines that he had to close out of. Now he's buying Bank of America when he could buy things like the silver miners, for example, or, for example, the energy companies that are still paying decent enough dividends. Billionaire Elon Musk, SpaceX, a privately owned company, is looking for financing of up to $1 billion. They're currently valued at $44 billion. They've raised $346.2 billion at the valuation of $36 billion previously in May. And obviously they want to raise a little bit more money. And as economies continue to struggle over the pandemic, the U.S.-China trade tensions are starting to flare again. We had a situation, the best performing raw material this year has actually been lumber futures. If you guys didn't know that, there's actually a futures market for lumber. So we have a situation where everybody's at home, nobody's traveling, they're looking around, saying maybe I'll do some improvements. And on top of that, there's been a shortage as well, because obviously the lumber mills and the processing plants, they've been shut down as well. So we have less supply and more demand, which is causing the demand for the wood that everybody uses. International events, the U.S. Department of State ordered China to close their Houston consulate due to the fact that they state that we're trying to protect the private info and property information of Americans. They came out with reports of documents being burned. So let me get this right. The U.S. Got something here in my nose. The U.S. government wants them to close the consulate, but then out of nowhere they start burning documents. Definitely nothing going on there. Nothing to see here. Nothing going on. Other than that, the Chinese government retaliated by telling the U.S. government that they should close their consulate in Chengdu. And in U.S. versus China relations, they continue to deteriorate. We're walking into a Cold War with China like we had with Russia. Trade issues, obviously the coronavirus. You guys may not know this, but they stopped all national flights, but they left all the international flights open. So somebody from the hotspot in December, if I'm not mistaken, for the coronavirus that obviously was from Wuhan, China, they closed all the national flights from Wuhan, but they let everybody fly internationally. Nothing to see here. Nothing going on. We also have the situation of the extensive claims in the South China Sea, which violates not proprietary. What they say is theirs infringes on the rights of other countries' water. There's a certain amount of, if you guys know the exact number, from a country's coast, a certain amount of miles from their coast is their waters. And then obviously we get into international waters. Well, China's saying that a lot of these waters are theirs, and it's actually infringing on the area of other countries. We also have the situation in Hong Kong and the ethnic discrimination that we have with the Muslims as well in China. So all this is kind of conglomerating into a big word there, to obviously the problems between China and the U.S. On Thursday, the U.S. joined Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia opposing Russian attempts to rewrite history after President Putin stated that the Baltic states actually consented to their 1940 annexation by the then Soviet Union in World War II. Obviously, that wasn't the case, and the U.S. is joining these countries saying that that's not actually what happened. And as testing accelerates, we now have 4 million confirmed cases of the coronavirus in the United States on Thursday. Over 1,100 deaths in 2 days in a row this week, the highest level since May. And we have over 143,000 that are dead nationwide. There's been some analysts that are questioning the numbers and the testing process. There's actually, I'll just mention 2 of those for you. This is why I think it's not that kind of big. I think it's been politicized. So there was a motorcycle accident in Florida where they marked the death as coronavirus instead of the motorcycle accident. And there's also a situation where a lot of Florida labs, a lot of them that listed 100% infection rates, the White House administration actually asked the HHS, I believe it's the HSS or HHS, another 3-digit federal department, to send the numbers of the coronavirus directly to the White House rather than going through the CDC. Because as you know, we have this kind of political infighting everywhere between the left and the right now. So the CDC wasn't reporting the actual numbers, or they were changing them somehow. So now that the numbers are going directly to the White House, a lot of these Florida labs all of a sudden decided to say, oh, our numbers aren't actually correct. They're higher than they should be. So that's interesting as well. Over 40 countries accused North Korea on Friday of illicitly breaching a UN cap on refined petroleum products designed to cut off their fuel to develop nuclear weapons and ballistic missile programs. And an unusual fact this week, stone tools unearthed in the cave in Central Mexico and other evidence from 42 other far-flung archaeological sites now indicate that people could have been in North America 30,000 years ago instead of what they actually have been teaching us in school. Scientists have identified 37 volcanic structures on the planet of Venus, which they thought was dormant, which is actually really interesting as well. In central Chinese province of Hubei, over 8,000 people were evacuated as a river was literally blocked as the amount of mountain came down and blocked the river, damaged thousands of hectares. Threatened to submerge the city of Enshi and a number of neighboring villages. And locusts have stripped thousands of hectares of farmland in Sardinia, devastating farms in the process. They've damaged 37,000 acres, about 15,000 hectares of grazing land. And it's not just in Europe. We have them in Africa. They're going across Asia to China. They've been found in Argentina. Huge swaths of these bugs, let's say. They just come in, just eat everything, and then leave everything just barren. This could cause a major problem for us because if you guys don't know where food comes from, it's not from the store. It's from agricultural land. And aside from that, something really interesting this week as well. Top secret Pentagon program has been conducting classified I'm going to read this word for word. A top secret Pentagon program has conducted classified briefings for over a decade, analyzing various encounters between military craft and unidentified aerial vehicles, which is UFOs. The secretive task force, expected to make a public release of new findings, may involve vehicles made of materials not on this planet. So, aliens are real. That's the news for this week, guys. Let me know if you guys have any questions. Don't forget to subscribe, and we'll see you next week.